Many things in our life are often fleeting. We meet new people and pursue new interests. In the midst of all the changing circumstances and decisions in our life, there are a few things that are needed to form our sense of self and help us live a happy life. Culture is needed to form our sense of self, and a stable economy is needed to help us live a happy and normal life. And many of you probably already know how climate change is impacting our health and is impacting our environment and the way in our lifestyles in a day-to-day basis. However, there are some underrated effects of climate change that need more discussion, and they're not being talked about as much in the media. And today I'm here to talk about two of those effects, which is climate change's impact on culture and climate change's impact on our economy. So first, I want to start off with culture as a whole. Most of us understand how culture shapes our identity. Culture is a central part of who we are. It determines our personality, our opinions, beliefs, values, and everything. And it is a core part of who we are and what we believe in. Besides that, culture is also important in forming our relationships with other people. We underestimate often how important culture is in our day-to-day life. People usually take for granted what culture can do for them and what culture is and what effects culture is having in their life. Most of us have good relationships with our families and friends, and this is partially due to culture. Culture brings people closer to each other as we share similar beliefs and we discuss different opinions with each other in a peaceful manner. Culture is open to different things and helps us be open to different ideas and different values. So culture's importance in our overall lifestyle and our overall well-being should not be underrated and should be understood. So climate change is impacting our culture in ways that many people don't see immediately, or many people don't, or many people underestimate. The average global temperature has increased by 1 degree Celsius over the past 100 years. And although that might not seem very high, that has many detrimental effects on many of the things that we see today, such as your environment and most importantly, our culture. As people move from different places to places, there are many effects that culture has and climate change has on our culture. I can start off with one of the effects of culture and what exactly it is doing to us and how exactly it is impacting us. And that is our sense of place. So many people understand the basic definition of place, and you might understand a basic general idea of what place is, but there is more in depth to what place actually is and how it is shaping us. Place is places where our culture is born and where our culture is formed, and the origin of our culture. So place is a central part of culture and shaping who we are. That's why place is important in determining our culture and bringing people together in terms of our culture. However, climate change is threatening our place, our sense of place, as it brings more and more changes to our center of culture, and it brings more and more changes to our place. And it impacts some groups more than it impacts others. More than us, climate change impacts people such as Indigenous people. Indigenous people are the ones most impacted by climate change. And you might be asking, why is this? So why are Indigenous people more affected by climate change? And that is because Indigenous people are more tied to their land and view their land as part of their culture. And without their land, they fail to see the importance of their culture. Because with their Indigenous people see certain parts of their land as sacred or certain parts of their land as important to their culture, and they need that in order to know the importance of their culture and respect their culture more. However, climate change threatens this, and climate change is forcing these people to move from their hearth and move away from their place to different places and adopt dominant cultures and lose their culture in the process, as climate change destroys their place, or climate change brings extreme changes to their place. So Indigenous people are affected more than us and deserve more attention when it comes to climate change effects and culture effects. And also another effect of climate change that affects all of us and that should have more attention and that we should pay more attention to is climate effects on language, our language, and how we communicate with people and which is a central part of who we are and how we communicate. And language is a central part of our culture as well, and it forms who we are and our beliefs and our personality, which is all being threatened by climate change as people, as minority languages and linguistic groups are being threatened of their language. Because linguistic groups, if we see, are mostly located near the coast, and the coastal regions are affected by climate change the most. That's why they have to move from their coastal areas inward and adopt dominant languages and dominant practices and forget their language in the meantime. There's over 7,000 languages currently, but with climate change impacts, this number will drastically decrease as many people are forced to abandon their language. I want to discuss the effects on the economy, and this impacts everybody, no matter if they're poor or not or have enough money. This will impact every single person, and it will impact future job opportunities for all of us. So one of the effects of climate change on our economy is that it brings greater amounts of floods, and floods destroy infrastructure and destroy buildings and everything which is needed for us to operate a good economy. And this destruction of infrastructure directly impacts the economy, as I said, and also impacts job opportunities, as many people will lose their jobs and many people will lose the ability to work for money, which will impact all of us in the future more than it is now, as more and more effects of climate changes are being seen and more floods are being seen because of climate change. It also brings climate refugees. And what a climate refugee is a refugee that moves due to the effects of climate change on their original habitat. So they are forced to move from the habitat. So as they move, it puts a strain on the dominant or the receiving country's resources as they have to take in all of these immigrants. So that also destroys the economy of many countries, as many people are being forced to relocate due to climate change effects on their economy. So today, that's why I wanted to discuss these impacts of climate change that are not getting as much as attention as the other effects, and just how versatile climate change effects really are. So now that I discussed all of the negative impacts of climate change, so what can we actually do to help, and how can we help, or is it in our hands? So many people are quick to blame others or blame external things, such as bigger problems like factories, manufacturing, and other external sectors and everything, and saying they're contributing to climate change more, and it's not in our hands. However, although this is true to a certain extent, we still can, in a large degree, help reduce our effects by a lot, just through small efforts that we make day to day, which can even help us in the future save money and save costs and save time. So, and while our individual efforts are important because they form collective efforts, and collective efforts make a big difference. Our individual efforts empower others to change, and this will form collective efforts, which will make the big difference that we can visibly see in our world and visibly reduce the effects of climate change. For example, if we all reduced our meat consumption, we could save about 80 million metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. And if we all took a shorter shower by even 1 minute, we could save almost 160 billion gallons of water. And that's in the US alone. These small changes, such as conserving water, reducing plastic, composting, and eating less meat, could help us in the future save money, and it would make a world of a difference in the future.